Hello 102ers. So there's been some confusion about how to analyze the data for the Stream Diversity Lab. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough on what I expect you to do and what I expect to see in the lab reports. So to remember, we're measuring three different variables: species richness, evenness, which is calculated by pi, and diversity. So when we analyze this, we need to be analyzing them per site, okay? Because we need to get averages from those for our figures, but also for our analysis. So the way we will do that is we're going to look at, we're going to collect data for each site. So we had 3 groups doing edge, 3 groups doing the middle. So, and each group did 3 sites. Okay, so for example, this would be group 1, 1, 2, 3, group 2, 4, 5, 6, group 3, 7, 8, 9. So we're breaking the groups up into based on their site. So the way we'll calculate that is by, let me just reset this. So what I'll do is I'll go into my raw data. So I'm just going to collect all the information for site 1. So it was only Hemiptera and Odonata. I'm just going to copy those, Control C, and I'm going to paste that in here. So it gives me what I need. So it gives me my pi, all this information. So let's say I'm doing the evenness. So for the first site, the pi is 0.124. So now I'm going to do this for site 2. So site 2, there are 3 things. So I'm going to copy those and paste them here. I get a new pi value, 0.640. I'm going to do that then for site 3. Don't delete, just hit clear. Oops. And other pi value, and so forth. So remember this, I'm going to do this for all the sites in edge, and I'm going to do the same thing for all the sites in the middle. So let me just make this, I'm just going to make up some data for the rest of these. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to calculate the averages. Oops. Averages and my standard deviation, which is the variation from the mean. So the way to do that, I just can come here, type in equal, type out the word average. So I'm telling Excel to calculate the average. All these numbers here within these cells, so I just clicked and dragged it down, close my parenthesis, and I get the average. Then I want the standard deviation, and that's STDEV parenthesis, and again I'm just going to highlight that same data. Okay, so I calculated my average and my standard deviation. The reason I did that is this is what we're going to be using to make our graph with. So let's say, so I did this, but let's say I did it for edge, and then I want to do it also for the middle, correct? So let me just change this data some. Okay. So let's say these are my evenness, the averages of my evenness, so I'm going to graph that. And just to make graphing easier, I just like to put these together. So I'll have edge, middle, I'll have my averages here. So my average for the edge is 0.456, right, over here. And my standard deviation is 0.17. My average for the middle is 0.23, and the standard deviation is 0.10. So I just did this so it's easy to graph, so I can just highlight these two things, go to Insert, Chart, I want a column graph, and I click that. So for me personally, for the graphs that get turned in, you can delete that since we only have one color or one variable. So we have, here's our mean for edge, mean for middle, and then the other thing that's missing besides our labels, which you need to add those, is the standard deviation bars. So I click on the bar, right click, and go to Format Data Series, and I want to add error bars. So you can see it right here. So we want it both positive and negative, and we want it with a cap, and we want it to be custom. So we're going to use the ones we calculated. So specify value, then click on positive error value here. Okay, so I'll click on this little box here, and I'm going to select the standard deviations for edge and middle, and then do it for the negative part. So this is giving me the positive deviation from the mean and the negative deviation from the mean. So okay, and we can see how they overlap here. Okay, so this is how you're going to make the graph. So you're going to make one for evenness, one for richness, and one for density. So now to analyze the data, we're going to be using JMP. So I'm going to come up here and open up my JMP file. I want a new table. So the first column, this will be treatment. So this is where we're going to say whether it's edge or middle. So we had 9 sites that were edges, so I'm just going to do edge. And just for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy, paste. So I just Control-C until I get 9. And then we had middle. So again, I'll just copy and paste. Oops. Until I get 9. And then now we'll create another column. So I just double click here, and this one will be our evenness. So I'm going to come and grab the data that I just made up here. Okay. So this was our edge, so I'm just going to click on here and paste that. So that gives me the evenness for the edges. Get the evenness for the middle. Okay, so now I want to analyze this. So the way I analyze it is I come up here to the Analyze tab, and I want fit Y by X. So I want my treatment, so edge middle, to be my X factor, and my evenness to be the Y response. So this is telling me that it's going to basically compare the evenness values within the edge to the middle. So I hit OK, and I get this window here. So I'm going to click on this little red arrow here, and I want it to give me my means ANOVA. So we don't need the summary of fit, and we don't need the t-test. What we're interested in is the analysis of variance. Okay, so here we have our degrees of freedom, so treatment and error, 1 in 16. So remember, that's what you provide. We have our F ratio, so this is the F statistic, so F equals this. And also you can, put your mouse over and it'll tell you what the value is. And then here's our p-value of p is equal to 0.0036. And on JMP, if it's significant, it'll give you an asterisk next to it. And then to calculate jump will also calculate the mean, so you can come up here and click mean, standard deviation, and here you can see it'll give you the mean, the same thing we calculated here, as well as the standard deviation. So you could just calculate all that in jump as well instead of Excel, but you need those values for the graph. Okay, so you'll be doing an ANOVA for evenness, an ANOVA for richness, and an ANOVA for density. So that's 3 ANOVAs, and for each one of these factors you need to have the corresponding figure that looks like this, a bar graph. So I didn't label axes, but you need to label these axes. So this would be, you know, mean, evenness, and this would be treatment, edge, middle. Okay, so the reason we do that is because we're increasing our sample size, right? Instead of having one sample, we'll have 9 replicates. And then, you know, this is the same thing here for the edge. You'll be calculating the density within the edges, and that's what you're comparing. For the relative abundance curve, what you're going to be doing is, for this one, doesn't matter about separating them into, what's it called? Separating them into sites. We want to separate them into first the treatment and then the order, because the relative abundance is the number of individuals within each order. So what you should do is come here and highlight these 4 columns, go to data and sort, and we first want to sort it by treatment, then we want to sort it by order. Okay, so when we do that, it'll separate them, it'll order it within a treatment, and it'll separate them into order. And the reason we want to do that is we want to make a relative abundance curve, and that's based off of the abundances. So we always start off with the most, but first we just need to separate them out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come here and type in Amphipoda, and the number of Amphipoda we have is 1. Okay, Coleoptera, and we have 1 of those. Decapoda, so Decapoda we have 1, 2. Diptera we have 2, 4, 6. Okay, and so forth. And then after you're done with that, you're going to get the total value, or the sum. So I can do equals sum, parenthesis, what I want the sum of, close parenthesis and enter. So I get the total sum here. And then for the relative abundance, I'm going to do equal sign, this cell divided by my sum, which is 10. And I'm just going to drag that down. Okay, so let's call this, we'll call this order, and we'll call this abundance. So when you make your relative abundance curve, it needs to be ranked from most common to least common. So I'll just come here, highlight that, data, sort, and I want it to be sorted by relative abundance. Okay, there should be none, but I want it to be ascending, sorry. So I want it to be descending. Okay, so see how it does it like that? So what I want to graph would be my orders and my relative abundance. So when I copy this, I'm actually going to right click and paste special, so it doesn't paste the formulas, I just want the values. And then I'll make a graph of this. So you can see how it provides this, provides a curve, and this is what you're going to be matching, you know, the broken stick or whatever curve that it looks like. If it's going like this, straight down. Okay? I hope this tutorial helps you guys. If you have any questions, email me, but I think I've covered just about everything with all of these things. Okay, have a great, I guess, good time working on this paper.